Good afternoon, everyone. I send you my greetings from my home. I hope that you're doing well during these COVID times. And I welcome you to this special session. Today, we will cover the second part of the topic teenagers. So we will see the functions. Okay, as you know, my name is Eduardo Rocha Alvarez. I'm an English teacher by Británico. I'm a law student at Antonio Ruiz de Montoya University, and I'm a former teenage leader. Okay, I hope that you're ready because we are going to start now. But before, let me give you some points that you need to take into consideration. I will show you some important definitions to enrich the comprehension of the topics. They are there they are taken from the online version of Cambridge Dictionary. The second point is that I will ask some questions, but I do not expect you to answer them because it's only to comprehend better. And finally, once the lesson is over, there will be some time to ask and respond questions. So do not worry because at the end, we will be answering your questions. Here is the content of the session of today, of today's session. It has 6 points. The first point is talking about a specific stage in life. The second point, talking about effects. The third point, giving advice. The fourth point, asking short questions. The fifth point, expressing possibilities. And the last point is asking for permission. Okay, talking about a specific stage of life. What can you see in the picture on the left? Have a few seconds to think about this. Yes, okay. We can see two men. One is an old man, probably it's his dad, it's the dad, and the other one is a teenager. What are they doing? They are talking to each other. We don't know the topic they are talking about, but they seem to have a good conversation because they are smiling. And the man looks very, very focused on what he is saying. On the other hand, the teenager is carefully listening to him, and he seems to enjoy what his dad is saying to him. Okay, teenagers experience many changes during their development, so they need to talk about different aspects at this season. Okay. Yes, what aspects do they need to talk about? Maybe how to socialize, what study techniques they can apply at school or at college, um, how to wear clothes. Yes, because they are so interested in their appearance, their physical appearance, how to be an effective communicator, and then maybe how to have a good sexual life. That's so important because this is the stage of life in which they are going to initiate their some sexual activities. And maybe how to fall in love, how to flirt with someone they like, etc. The main factor to consider is that they need to approach someone they trust in. What's the meaning of approaching? That means reaching out, okay? They need to find someone they get on well with and that they feel comfortable with. This person can be one of their parents, teachers, or a close friend. Yeah, it can also be a relative or a neighbor. Perhaps if they have met this person for a long time, and they will be confident and they will have the security to talk with them. We can see a picture on the right about a guy that seems to be confused. Maybe he has some doubts and he doesn't know what to do next. So he's listening to his dad and thinking about what he's talking to him. Behind him, there is a woman, probably his mom, and she is observing what they are doing, probably so as to talk with his husband after that. And maybe together they can come to conclusions and they can help their children. Now, here we have a similar picture. This is a couple on a couch. The guy has a laptop on his legs, and the lady is probably talking about something she's looking at on the screen. And the guy is looking away. I don't know where exactly, but they seem to be very talkative and having no pressure on them. Okay, teenagers need to be sure that the person that they are going to reach out to is not going to judge them and is going to comprehend their situation and give them some advice. Yes, because imagine that they have done something bad or they have made a mistake. They don't want you to tell them, hey, you have messed up, you have done this totally wrong in a wrong way. They will expect that you say, hey, do not worry, everyone makes mistakes. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to help you and give you some piece of advice. So feel free to talk with me. And this way, there will be a special bond between the two parties. Okay, now let's talk about effects. Everything has a cause and an effect. Okay, so it is fundamental for teenagers to know the possible effects of their decisions. Yes, if you do this, that will happen. If you go to do the groceries, then there will be food, and if there is food, I can cook for you. But if you don't do anything, you won't eat anything. Why? Because we need to teach teenagers not to be lazy. They need to be hardworking. They need to be collaborative. They need to participate actively in their families. And parents have the responsibility for teaching their children and their teenagers especially how they can or they should behave. Also, if you go to school, you will have your degree. If you get your degree, you will have a good job. If you have a good job, you will have money. If you have money, you can travel, you can do this and that. Maybe you can do a master's degree, you can eat out with your friends, you can get you a car, and so on. So it's so important. Help them think in a more creative way and help them have the complete overview of their future, but by doing things and by taking actions and making decisions in the present. We can see a picture of an old woman that is showing affection towards this teenager that is on the right. The teenager looks a bit sad or a bit concerned about something. Maybe she got pregnant at this age and she's looking for some help. Why? Because, you know, when a woman gets pregnant, it's such a responsibility because it's a baby on its way. And she has to be comprehended. Many times it happens that dad doesn't want to pay the bills, doesn't want to be responsible for the child on its way, but the woman has to move forward. Okay, teenagers need to clearly know what will happen if they do this or that, as I mentioned, and what will happen if they do not do anything about a particular situation. Just imagine that a teenager has a car and suddenly he or she has an accident. If they have an accident, they will have to go to the doctor or they will have to go to a hospital, maybe for a surgery. What happens if they do not do this, probably they can die or they can be seriously injured forever. And that's not the point, that's not the idea. They need to know, hey, what will happen if I don't take these pills when I'm sick? What will happen if I do not attend a school? What will happen if I do not make my bed and I'm not organized? You know that education starts at home. So if they do not learn basic things at home, like cleaning, doing the housework, and doing the dishes, and going to the supermarket, they won't be effective when they get a job, and they won't be able to lead a group, for instance, because they are lazy, because they are disorganized, and they don't know how to act before a particular situation. We can see a young man, okay, probably he's talking about his adolescence, because adolescence is such an important season in our lives, and there are some things that determine our future when we are young and when we are adults. So if we do not identify what happened in our adolescence, then we won't be able to get any piece of advice. And he's being advised by a professional, probably a psychologist, who is taking notes of every single word that he's saying to her. What else? When talking about effects, they have to be aware of the fact that there will be some effects and they will not have control over, such as actions done by others. Yes, unfortunately, we do not, we cannot control everything that happens in our lives. There will be some sad consequences that we will have to assume, but probably we are not responsible for. Okay, imagine that you go out to a street, you're walking, and suddenly you meet with a criminal, and this criminal robs your phone. You will have to keep paying for your phone to the company, but it's not your fault. It was someone else's fault. But you need to be calm, you need to acknowledge that, and it will be a process, of course, and keep going because there is no other way. What else? Maybe if you're a parent and your child misbehaves, probably he or she broke your neighbor's window when playing, you will have to pay for that. Your children don't work, so they don't have money. And if they don't have money, they cannot pay for what they done. And you will have to face the consequences. Now let's talk a little bit about giving advice. When a person is in trouble, especially when being a teenager, they need to think clearly, not let emotions rule their actions, and ask for advice. Yes, that's totally true. There are some emotional people that they think, I'm sad, so today is going to be a sad day. I'm happy, so I'm going to treat everyone as in a perfect way. I'm surprised, so I won't do anything today because I will think all the single day about the surprise I had. I'm angry, so I will treat badly. I will treat everyone badly. But that doesn't have to be that way. You need to be clear, you need to be patient, you need to be fair. Yes, you don't need to treat anyone in an unfair way, unfairly. You need to be a good person. That's not complicated. What else? You need to have the better landscape of what you are of what your situation is. And when possible and when needed, you need to ask for advice, especially if you don't know what to do. Okay, when looking for an ideal person, they do not need to pursue perfection. Only a suitable person with a willingness to help, knowledge, and experience. Nobody's perfect. That means that we won't have the perfect candidate. We won't have the perfect a counselor. Just need to find someone who has the desire to help, someone who has the knowledge in the specific topic they are going to talk about, and someone who have gone through the same things as the teenager. Okay, so on the right, we have a lady who is giving some advice or who is talking to her child, sorry, and she seems to be very compassionate. She's not criticizing him. She's just there, like showing affection and showing that she cares about him, and that's so important. So I encourage you, if you're a parent, to spend time with your children and listen carefully to them, because um, maybe they need someone to be by their side. And if you're an absent parent, that will cause serious problems in their mind and in their hearts. So please do not do that. One important thing is to be honest, tell all the truth. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to offer them help. Yes, if we are dishonest, then we won't get the right piece of advice. We have to tell the complete information on time, and it has to be, what else? It has to be true. Yes. Incomplete information is not true. Information not given on time is not really helpful. So you need to take into consideration these three aspects. On the left, we have two women, probably that's a mom and her child, and they're looking at the mobile phone. Probably they're watching a video, they are reading an article, and they are commenting on them. Yes. Now asking short questions. Why is it important to ask questions? Because by asking questions can help us start conversations about concerns and frequent problems. The more questions are made, the more answers we will have. We can ask questions as what, where, what, how, who, why, when. And after answering these questions, we will be able to give teenagers some piece of advice. And they are going to ask some questions too. Every teenager asks themselves questions that are not always shared. Why? Maybe because they feel shy, maybe because they are not brave enough, maybe because they feel ashamed about what they have done, or they are sad and they don't want to talk to anyone. Okay, so let's see some of the questions that teenagers normally ask. Who am I? That has to do with identity. What is going on? And that has to do with the current situation. How can I feel better? That has to be with the psychological health. Why me? That has to do with what? Yes. Why me? Assigning responsibility for the actions they have done. We can see, what we can see on the right is a classroom, and there is a guy who is raising his hand before the teacher or the tutor. Probably he wants to ask a question, one of these questions that we have discussed, or maybe a question about the course that he's taking. Okay, so as to help teenagers, we also have to ask them some questions. How would you describe yourself? How was your childhood? Maybe did you live with both of your parents, only one? or none, neither of them? Uh, who were your best friends? What do you do in your free time? How do you spend this leisure time? Maybe do you like music? Do you like playing sports or playing video games? Are you scared of something? Probably. Some are scared of the dark, others are scared of death or of becoming ill. We need to know all of their fears. Do you like working in groups or do you prefer working alone? Those are the questions that we can ask them. Try to get to know them better. What are the characteristics of a good friend? Maybe being honest, loyal, confident, funny, responsible, respectful, tolerant, and so on. What are your strengths and weaknesses? They have to clearly identify what they are good at and what they are bad at. What kind of music do you like? Maybe do you like pop? Do you like rock from the 80s, the 90s, from the 20s? Do you like chicha? Do you like reggaeton, salsa, cumbia? What do you like? Do you like dancing? Do you like singing? What habit would you like to leave? What thing that you are doing now you don't want to do anymore, but you have problems with giving up on them? Okay, now let's talk a little bit about expressing possibilities. We need to encourage teenagers to express themselves. Some tips for this are: give them the chance to be responsible. Maybe you can assign them some duties at home, like take out the trash, take the dog for a walk, do the groceries, do the dishes, mm, maybe clean the windows, and other things, right? Make your bed, organize your clothes, do that laundry. Let them participate in discussions. They have to know that they matter and they have to uh, take part in conversations at home, maybe about the organization of the house, maybe about some finances according to their age, and other topics. Okay, let them know that they matter. Talk with them, yes, because if you don't talk with them, they won't be able to express their feelings, their thoughts, and they won't feel good. They will feel like they are just there because you had them some years ago and they don't matter, or their word doesn't have any power. What we can see on the right is like a play, and there are two teenagers. They're acting, they are playing a role, and so to act, they have to be responsible. And this way they can express their feelings and what is on their mind. Listen to them. Yes, I mentioned that their feelings, beliefs, concerns, fears, etc. Also set some rules so that they know what they can do and what they are not allowed to do. Teenagers and in general children needs basically two things: love and respect. Okay, but beside that, they have to they have to have some limits. They cannot do whatever they want. They cannot say whatever they want and not being punished for that. Let them be creative and flexible. Let them participate. Let them create a story. Let them find solutions to some problems at home and be flexible. So if they have a schedule and one day they cannot do something, they can replace that for another activity. And that's so important, not to be so strict, because sometimes things happen and they don't know how to manage. Oh, no, from 8 to 10, I had to do this, but now I have something urgent to do. And they need to be able to replace it by other activity according to their priorities. Okay, teenagers cannot have total freedom. Yes, because if they have total liberty, they will believe that they are superior, that they can be proud of what everything they do, and it's not this way. They need to know that everyone makes mistakes. They need to know that uh, sometimes the situation don't let us do the things that we want, and they have to be aware of that, and they need to know that circumstances can change, but they need to be responsible all along. They also have to have some limits. This means that when they want to go out or do something, they need to ask for permission. Yes, parents normally say, hey, when you will live alone, you will be able to go wherever you want at the time you want and do um, hold accountable. Okay, but while you live in my house, you are going to follow the rules I set for you. On the right, we can see a lady who is raising her hand, and maybe she wants to go to the bathroom in the middle of a meeting or in the middle of a class, and she needs to ask for permission. That's a polite way to do so. Now, there are some strategies that teenagers have so as to get their parents' permission. Yes, wait until the last minute. Maybe they have a party on the weekend, but they don't say anything until the same day because they think that this way they can manipulate their parents. Use their friends to put pressure on their parents. Yes, maybe they have a friend that their parents trust in, and they're going to ask them to talk for them, like, hey, can you tell my parent to give me permission to go to this party, to go to this reunion? And maybe parents will feel more sensible. Now, make some promises. Hey, if you let me go to this place, I will clean the house all the week. If you let me do this, I will get good grades at school. And this way, they try to manipulate their parents, try to confuse parents by offering extra information. Normally, when we talk a lot, we don't let the other person to comprehend what we want to say. We cannot communicate it. Okay, here we have some conclusions. We have talked about teenagers, the part of topics, no, sorry, about the part of functions, and what happens when a teenager wants to ask for permission, when they need to receive advice, when they want to talk about this season of their lives. And now we have some conclusions. Okay, the first one is communication between parents and teenagers plays an essential role during adolescence. Yes, and we know that for communication, there are some requirements. The first one is to have at least two parties. In this case, parents on the one side and children on the other side. Imagine that any of these parties or one of these parties are not willing to talk, then there won't be communication. They also need to speak the same language to give them a message and use body language. That's so important to express their feelings in an appropriate way. What else? Teenagers need to find a suitable person to talk with. Yes, they cannot trust anyone. They need to have a specific person to talk with, uh, ideally a person that they have met for a long time and that know them well. So they are not going to criticize them and they are not going to judge them. The third conclusion is teenagers need to know about the possible effects of their actions. They need to know what will happen if they do this or that action, and that they need to be responsible for what they do. What else? Asking questions can be a good start for a conversation. Sometimes we don't know how to begin a conversation, and in this case, it will be suitable to ask some questions. Okay, what happened? When was that? Who were you with? And why did you do this? Why did you feel this way? What do you think you can do so as to resolve this problem? And so on. The fifth conclusion is adults need to let teenagers express possibilities. Yes, they need to let teenagers express their feelings. They need to let them talk, participate in discussions, etc. And finally, parents have to teach their children to ask for permission. Yes, as I mentioned before, teenagers need two things mainly, love and limits. Okay, if we only give them love, they will feel like they will have total freedom to do whatever they want and they will misbehave. They won't respect authorities, they won't respect their parents and anyone. And if they only have limits but not love, they will feel like they don't matter. They will feel like they are slaves or that like they are in the army and then they have to follow some commandments or some rules, and that's it. And that's not the idea. Finally, parents have to teach their children to ask for permission. And that's connected with what I just said. They have to have some limits and they need to know that they are not totally free or that they are free up to a point, but that's how they need to be raised. So now it's time for you to ask questions. If you have any doubts, do not hesitate to write your question in the chat box because I will be very happy to answer your questions. Please, if you have any questions, now it's your time to ask. Okay, if you don't have any questions now and you want to ask me some questions later, here I leave you my personal info contact. It's my name, Eduardo Rocha, my email, erocha725@gmail.com, and my WhatsApp number 997-935-804. So thank you so much for joining today and see you next time. Bye.